Well, some of you guys have noticed that there's this open section that we haven't painted or prepped along our keel joint, and that's because we are actually planning to drop our keel soon.
This is it, guys. Our keel is about to come off.
So for the next couple of weeks, we are going to be working on this. It's a huge project. It's never been done, to our knowledge, on a Pearson 36 before, but we've beefed up everything else on the boat to a much stronger standard. So leaving the original keel and this connection the way it was just doesn't quite seem acceptable to us.
There's this last resort.
Yeah. The plan is going to be prep and grind everything we can, and then we're actually going to separate the keel, most likely be replacing all of the keel bolts, but we'll go over that as it comes. But today,
What?
Today we are going to start tackling probably like the biggest concern we've had with our boat ever since we got it, and we've been procrastinating for 10 years. It's now time to tackle the keel. When we first bought this boat, it appeared to have some pretty bad grounding damage, and the keel was like wobbling. And the very first fiberglass job we ever did was adding 5 more floors for 8 in total. These 3 were original, and we added 5 more aft to support the keel, and we put a butt ton of fiberglass and resin into that repair. And now that all this other structure is sort of like merged into it, our hull's really stiff. And so now it's time to get answers to like the last big question, which is what condition our keel bolts are in. We've been talking to experts throughout the 10 years we've owned this boat, and we get varying degrees of opinions from it's not worth it on a boat this old to even bother dropping the keel, to if the tops of the bolts look fine, don't worry about it, to x-ray the keel and you should be able to tell what condition the bolts are in, except the keel's lead, so I'm not quite sure how that works. We've got just sister, like add more bolts, like cut holes into the lead and drill in from the side and add bolts and smelt in new lead to just double up what's already there. We've had quotes from 40,000 down to 5,000 for professionals to do the work. In theory, it's pretty straightforward. And now that we have full bilge access, the idea is going to be to clean up all the bolts and to chisel all of like the resin and paint and goo and junk that's been squished on top of them over the years to sort of gain access to them. And then back the nuts off, clean the outside of the keel where the hull keel joint is, and clean that up really well so we can see it, and then try to lift the boat up a little bit and see if the keel drops. If it doesn't drop, it's going to be a pain in the ass. And if it does drop, then we'll lift the boat up the rest of the way, brace the keel, and then clean everything up and put it back on. It's going to be a big process, and it's just the biggest question mark we've had, and it's the thing that's kept us up and given us gray hair and made us not sleep at night the most, is the condition of our keel. Now it's finally time to answer that question. So the first step is going to be cleaning up the inside of the bilge as best we can, exposing the nuts and bolts the best we can, and making sure we have all the tools we need. So we need to make sure we have the right size socket. It's probably Imperial, so that might be a custom ordered thing because we don't have many Freedom unit sockets left. And then clean up the outside and see where the keel joint is so that we can kind of measure and kind of get a gauge for how thick the fiberglass is that these bolts are going through, and kind of see how much of a pain in the ass this is going to be. But we need to know, and we've decided that we need to know, and no matter what, the keel's coming off, and then it's a matter of getting it back on. But it's a big question mark, because if the keel bolts aren't in good condition, or if we break one while we're trying to take them off, then we have to install new keel bolts, and then that becomes a very expensive, very laborious process. So hopefully we don't do anything stupid, like my t-shirt says.
What does your t-shirt say?
It says boat work. Technically, it's easy as long as you don't fuck it up. Story of our lives. And yes, you can buy it on our website. It is our t-shirt, for those of you who are asking.
Super.
All right, let's get started. All right. Let's try to expose one and see what we're even working with here.
What do you think?
I think it's going to be a really long process to clean all these off. This is like one of the easier ones. The ones down there are going to be harder. It's like 50 years of gel coat and resin and epoxy and bilge paint. Like it's just layer after layer of like junk stuck on there. I'm trying to see if there's a washer down there or not. And using like wire dremel and on the Dremel a wire brush just to make sure we don't actually like damage any of the metal. Because the last thing we want to do is damage one of these before we even get it off.
And how many of these do we have to?
I think 10.
You think?
I think we have 10 keel bolts. There's 2 bolts by my left foot here that are where the mast step sits, and I have no idea if those are attached through to the lead keel or if those are sort of just embedded somehow. Like, I don't know. They don't have nuts on them, so, but they look the same as the other bolts. So maybe they're meant to be keel bolts, but they just never had nuts on them. I don't know. So we either have 10 or we have 12 keel bolts. I guess we'll find out when we start chopping this thing open. We're gonna need a really deep socket to even get down over top of those, because there's no way we can get enough leverage with just a wrench, and all of our keel bolts are pretty long. So we're gonna have to probably custom order something from America, most likely.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Importing stuff to Europe is a pain in the ass. But we got time, because this is going to take us a while. This is why we're going slow and making sure we have everything we need. This is a chance we're going to find something, but what we need is like, yeah, we need a socket that's 6 inches long or something like that. Probably an impact one so it's super strong, because we're going to be putting a lot of leverage on those to get those off. Yeah, we need something like that. Some super size. That's 19 millimeter, but my money's on those being in Freedom units. 7/8 is my biggest wrench.
Uh-oh.
It doesn't fit. It's tiny bit bigger. Like 1 inch, I guess.
Are you sure there's not like a equivalent in metric?
It'd be 25 millimeter, which I don't think we have a wrench that big either.
Adjustable wrench?
3/4. Yeah, but that's not gonna be strong enough to do anything. It was more just to see the size. Yeah, it's 7/8 as well.
Yeah, but with the adjustable wrench, you can figure out exactly what size it is, right? And then
That's true.
from there, do I have to go back and get an adjustable wrench?
Yeah, don't go get the adjustable. I think it's gonna be like 15/16. I'm not actually gonna like try, but
Oh, but now we need to measure.
that's 1 inch for sure. Yeah, that's 1 inch. If there was a battery in my calipers, I would use that. But see, when I measure it that way, it kind of looks more like 15/16. Freedom units. 15/16. Why not just make it 1 inch? Make it complicated. The U.S. nut size chart says a 5/8 inch bolt is going to have a 15/16 nut, and I'm pretty sure that's a 5/8 inch bolt. Yeah, that's a washer. Unless it's really, really pink bronze.
How does it look?
It looks pretty good. I'm pleasantly surprised that there's washers underneath the keel bolts. One is now clean-ish, clean enough that we could probably crack the nut off of it, hopefully. But we are gonna have to buy either a 15/16 inch super deep socket or a 1-inch super deep socket and wait for that to order before we can do anything with the bolts themselves. But in the meantime, we can keep cleaning everything up, do all the work on the outside, get everything ready, build a brace for the outside so that the keel doesn't fall over. But yeah, we need to keep cleaning up in here.
All right, guys, while Dan is inside performing delicate brain surgery on those bolts, I'm going to be outside working with the bone saw. So this is our keel, and it's about just over 6,000 pounds of lead bolted to the bottom of our sailboat with those 12 bolts that you saw on the inside of the boat. Now, it's kind of insane to me that 12 boats can just hold so much weight. That's basically the weight of our truck, basically this. The weight of this thing is underneath our boat. But anyway, the keel has a super crucial role on a boat because it helps stabilize it, it helps it from tipping over, and also it helps the boat move in the right direction. Now, if a keel falls off a sailboat while it's offshore, it's really bad news because not only you have a giant hole at the bottom of your bilge, but also there's nothing keeping your boat from just flipping upside down. So most likely you will just automatically sink. And I don't want to scare anybody watching here, but it's really important to make sure that your keel and your keel bolts are in good condition. Now, our keel has never shown signs of wear and tear. To be honest, we probably don't need to drop it and it's probably just fine, but it's one of those things, especially with this refit, where we just don't know. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna drop the keel and inspect it because it has never been dropped in the last 50 years of its life. So this is what's gonna happen. I'm going to be sanding off and grinding off all the layers of paint and fairing that we have on the hull, about a meter around the keel joint. And from there, we'll be able to make a plan to actually drop the keel, but we'll have to put it back up after, obviously. It's a great day to do this because it's overcast and there's a bit of wind, so I'm not burning out here in the middle of the day. So I think it'll be good. All right, I'm going to suit up, put my mask on, and get to it. This is like going back in time. Whew. You can actually, I ground it down all the way, some parts to the gel coats, some parts you can see the copper coat that we did, or our DIY copper bottom paint. But then like all the layers of paint is like going back through time, through all the years that we've painted the hull. I'm not exactly sure what to do with the end. I know that the lead comes down at some point, but then I have to continue because we're going to be cutting part of the aft part of the keel because it's just fiberglass. It's not really the lead part, so we're just going to cut it out. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as is. But yeah, it's kind of cool to go back to time. Then is a hammering on the inside. You can actually hear him.
Today is going to be a fun day because we are going to be grinding down all of the gel coat and epoxy and base coat and fairing from about 1 meter up to about half a meter down, so we can expose this joint, because once the keel comes off, we're going to be adding a few more layers of glass on the outside to really beef up this keel stub as much as possible. So today is just going to be a super fun grinding day.
Alright, one side down, and we're halfway. We have one side to go. Ah, this is so tiring. We're done. Oh, we're done. Oh my god. That was so exhausting.
We're done.
We did it though. One day. Oh hell yeah. Whew. I'm so tired. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Ah.
Well, good morning, guys. Today is gonna be a long day, but
Every day's a long day. Every day's a Monday.
yeah, every day's a Monday. But you know what?
Today's not, but it feels like it.
We don't have to wear a monkey suit anymore for
Yeah.
grinding work. I think that was the last big grinding project. I mean, obviously we're gonna grind things here and there in order to paint it, but
I think that was, that was a lot of grinding.
that was a lot of
And
grinding.
I think that's like the last time you and I are both going to be grinding for like a full day.
yeah.
It might be like a little like sand here, a touch up there, like glass in a little thing,
but not that much. Yeah.
That feels
So
good.
today's gonna be another milestone because we're going to work on the bilge, and we haven't touched in there for a very long time.
no.
Well, some of you guys actually asked us recently if we sleep on the boat during this refit, and the answer is no. The boat is definitely not ready for us to sleep in. It's full of fiberglass dust still. We don't even have a mattress yet.
No.
So-
And the V-berth has big holes in the top of it still
Yeah.
to access the bottom. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're not sleeping on the boat this time around. Probably could have if we absolutely had to, but then it would take longer because we have like to do things in phases.
Yeah, but we've been living in our Defender for the past almost 2
It's been 2 years.
Full time for 2 years, and I don't even notice
I like it.
because it's kind of crazy.
I like it.
So our morning routine, basically, we wake up in the truck, obviously. Then we close the tent, we drive to the yard, and then we come to the container where we kind of like sort of get ready for the day, because we kind of get up and go within like 10-15 minutes of waking up, so we need like an extra couple of
It's
minutes to
usually
get
still
into it.
like relatively cool in the morning, so we can spend like an hour in here like checking email and eating breakfast,
Yeah.
making tea,
Yeah.
kind of got starting the day.
And then part of starting our day is the good old-fashioned AG1. But it's good because we don't have the best diet living in the truck. But So in the truck we could have a good diet because we have all the things to cook.
Well,
but
except
we
the
don't
fridge is
cook in
broken
there.
now. So we have the
Yeah.
stove is in the truck, the fridge is here, the microwave's here.
Yeah, so we mainly cooked in the microwave, and that's not the healthiest thing.
Which like nukes out all the nutrients
Yeah.
from food.
So it's, taking AG1 has been good because it has like what 75 vitamins and prebiotic and probiotics
Postbiotics.
Postbiotics. But yeah, it has basically everything we need to have a good and healthy morning routine.
So when you're eating cheese quesadillas for breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
it feels healthier.
that helps.
So anyway, we're gonna finish this, and if you want to check it out, we'll have a link in the description below.
We're gonna finish getting ready, and then this Keel project is moving along. We still have a lot to do though,
Yeah,
but I'm feeling pretty optimistic.
me too. Me too. All right, let's go to work.
Another thing we need to prep before we can separate the keel is cleaning up the inside of the bilge. These floors we added originally 10 years ago when we first got the boat because the keel wobbled, and they are rock solid and are doing a really good job. However, down into the bilge, we didn't do any glass work. So now that we're getting ready to like replace the keel bolts, we're gonna clean this up and we're gonna grind it all down, and we're gonna bed some G10 in there and put some glass in there and get everything as like new as we can. In order to do that, we're gonna take this bulkhead back off. We didn't epoxy it in, it's just held in by screws. So because we knew we were gonna eventually be doing this project, so we just have a couple of screws. This whole side of the nook should come off hopefully relatively easily. And then we'll be ready to clean up the bilge. We're gonna plastic everything off in the boat too because we don't want to get too much fiberglass dust stuck in the cork. This one. This one. Meow. Oh, there's one more screw there. That's fine. There we go. Sit stay, little buddy. We'll be back for you soon. Cool. That's much more space. Yeah, this edge of that bulkhead lines up directly with these 3 keel bolts. There's enough space to put like a long extension and a torque wrench if we ever needed to like retorque the bolts, but there's not enough space to work around them for this little repair. So it came back off, which is fine. We kind of planned for it too. And now there's enough space to start grinding. Although we still have a little bit more bilge water to take out. The air conditioning's been dumping all this water into the bilge for the last couple of days. So we have a siphon trying to suck it out because we still have no holes in our boat. You ready for maybe our last day of grinding?
Yeah, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably the last big, messy job, right?
Grinding job.
Right, messy grinding job.
Messy grinding job. I think
Yeah.
it's the last messy grinding job.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean,
So we have that now,
yeah,
which is
what?
better than outside, the air conditioner.
Oh my god, this is, especially now that it's summer, it's brutal outside. So that's why we wanted to do all the outside work first as much as we could while it was still relatively cool in the spring. And now that it's summer, we can be inside in the air conditioning and not, you know, die. Let's do this. Last grinding chaos of this refit.
I can hear you guys already being like, put the air conditioning and the
It's
dust.
not gonna stay here.
But look.
Oh. This
We took apart vacuum cleaner bags and then like put them over top. So it's not great, and it definitely like reduces the flow rate, but we can still have air conditioning while we grind. So these suits aren't going to be nearly as bad.
Yeah, another important note about the air conditioning. This is not.
Look how small you are.
Much bigger. Another important note is that this is not a unit that will keep on the boat.
No, of course not.
Well, yeah,
That's
it's not
true.
obvious to
A lot of
everyone.
you guys were asking if we were going to keep that installed.
Yeah.
Big fat no.
No, this is literally just so that we can survive this refit, and we have a whole different system and planned.
In
planned
place and
planned and planned. Oh, Kika's word of the day. Yeah, so we have a whole different system that we're working on that's going to be way more efficient, and we don't have, because right now we have to have this box outside of the boat
Yeah.
as part of the unit. So no, this is just temporary, just for now.
All right, let's get grinding.
Let's do it, I guess.
All right, so we finished grinding out the inside of the bilge and getting out all the old like resin and all the junk and 50 years of stuff that's just been spilled down in there. And now that all of that glass is nice and clean and fresh, we template and we cut some G10 plates that are going to go down in and act as sort of backing plates to help distribute the load for the new bolts we're going to be putting in. In order to do that, we're going to start by putting about 10 layers of glass down at the bottom, and then we're going to put the plate in, and then a few more layers of glass on top to seal it in. And then in between each of these layers, we're going to be running layers of glass up the side of the bilge so that we can connect all of this new glass work into the old glass work we did 10 years ago when we first got the boat, so that we're going to create like a really nice, strong, uniform interior. And that way we'll be able to drill and tap and put the new bolts in, and then we can glass the outside after that. So all total, we're adding about an inch of glass and G10 into the bottom of the bilge, which is basically doubling the thickness of our keel stub, which is pretty cool. So we're using the same G10 we used up for the deck because it's an epoxy and fiberglass matrix that's just super, super strong. We're using that sort of as the backing plate to distribute this new load, rather than a metal like aluminum or stainless that has different expansion and contraction characteristics. This actually becomes part of a unified bonded structure because it's the same material that we're using. Whereas if we put metal down there or anywhere, you're never really bonding the metal to the glass. You're sort of just covering the metal with glass, and so they're never really like a cohesive matrix. It's like two different pieces. And also in the bilge, we have to seriously worry about corrosion. So just having one type of metal down there is going to be much better than multiple types of metal. So yesterday afternoon, we took some construction paper and templated out the bottom of the bilge and where all the bolt holes were. And then today we cut out these backing plates out of G10 and sanded them down and grinded them down and made them all nice and smooth. So now we just need to put in a bunch of layers of glass, set that in place, put a few layers of glass over top of it, and rinse and repeat 4 more times. And then the inside will be fully glassed. And that will be kind of the last big glass job inside the boat. So Kika is cutting up all the pieces that we need to glass down in here. And then I'm gonna start laying glass. It's really nice working inside with the air conditioning. It is frosty in here and I like it. First piece of glass is going in. Man, 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago, no, 10 years ago, when we glassed this the first time, it was the first glassing project we ever did.
I know.
And now, it's like the last glassing project we're ever going to do. It's kind of coming full circle here. I feel like we've gotten a lot more confident in our glassing abilities. Remember how we only had chip brushes and we were like,
Doing it by
Like,
hand.
these suck, and so we did it all by hand because
We're
it was
using
better.
our hands, not
It worked, man.
brushes. Yeah.
Look at this thing. It's still beautiful. Moment of truth. Hopefully we haven't added too much glass and this doesn't fit anymore. It's not really big. Maybe we'll just make it go in there. But it is kind of tight. Yeah, I think I can do it.
Okay.
Get in here.
Well, guys. Ugh.
All right. Last night we were here till midnight finishing
Yeah.
the glass work.
Yeah, we spent the last couple of days torturing ourselves because we needed to get this done this
Yeah.
week. But
It's done.
as you can see, it looks amazing.
Yep.
So, well worth it.
Yeah, it's really good. We were able to do a really good job tying in like the old bottom of the bilge that's very thin and damaged to like the kind of original repair that we did in the sort of like the top half of the bilge and into these like floors that we glassed in.
Yeah.
And we added between the G10 and the glass like 25 to 30 mil of glass in the bilge. So it's basically doubled the thickness of our keel step.
And we're gonna add on the outside of the keel as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
so that's gonna be.
And then the sides have like about 15 layers of glass on them each. And then we're gonna do the same on the outside. So basically we're gonna take our old hull and use it like core. And
Yeah.
glass a new hull around it.
Yeah. Well, let's
Just
put
in
it this
case
way.
there's like any issues that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. I mean, we did 10 years ago. We did the repairs on the floors.
Yeah, these guys.
And our repairs are. I mean,
Oh,
it was
these are-
already beefy.
These are not going anywhere.
No,
They're,
but we've never gone further into the bilge.
yeah. It was nasty, and B, there just wasn't really a reason.
Yeah.
But now that we're beefing up everything on the boat, we need to beef up the keel and the glass around it, and it's quite thin for where it should be. So
Especially that we grounded quite a bit of it already,
yeah.
just by cleaning it.
So yeah, well, before we're done with this whole project, we'll kind of sand this a bit smooth, get all little bumps of fiberglass off, and
Yeah.
then put like a dozen layers of primer down there, and paint with epoxy so that it's nice and sealed and it'll be clean forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah.
It was really good. And putting those big G templates down there is going to be a really good way to like distribute the load from the bolts across all of the new glass and then distribute it up into the floors we did. It's so solid.
Yeah. And the reason why we wanted to get this done this week is because starting tomorrow, we're going to drop the keel of our boat.
Yeah, we're gonna start the process
So-
to take the keel off.
Yeah.
The bolts are 50 years old, so they need to be inspected anyway.
As you can see, you can't, on our boat at least, we can't just drop the keel and be done. We had a lot of prep to do,
Yeah.
including this glasswork in the bilge.
It's
So-
also our understanding from all of the other Pearson owners that we talked to and groups that we've been a part of. I think we're the first Pearson 36 to take the keel off.
Yeah.
We know a couple of them who've tried and gave up. They are bronze J bolts directly into the lead, but they're kind of undersized in our opinion, and we don't know what the condition of them are where they meet the keel. So they need to be inspected anyway. And while it's off, we're probably just going to be either replacing some of them or adding new keel bolts in some of the areas. That's why we're bringing in Mike next week.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. So this is exciting.
Yeah. We're going to start the process of actually taking the keel off, which is going to take 2 weeks, probably.
Yeah.
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 All right.
So
Can we sleep today?
yeah, we're gonna need. It's gonna be a.
Like
It's
recharge.
gonna be a very hardcore 2 weeks of work, and we're super excited to share all that with you. You're gonna enjoy us torturing ourselves. So come back for more.
All right. Let's
Okay.
finish cleaning up and
Yes.
getting ready because tomorrow is going to be
A big
a
day.
big day.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers.